apologize, folks. I got to this site and everything looked silted, so I didn't bring my phone with me. And then I walked about 50 yards and got into a really good washout and picked up first this tip. I don't know what it came off of, but look at the flaking on that and the sharpness of it. That would have been a dandy. And then this beautiful blade. It's not super thin, but it's very well made, very beautiful. Got that inclusion right in the center, multiple colors of hornstone or Wyandotte chert. So sorry I didn't get me actually picking them up out of the ground, but I was way down that way and didn't think I was going to find anything. This is one of those days where the heat index is going to get up to like 105, 110, and I got a late start, so I probably won't be hunting too long, but I wish I'd have gotten here earlier because things are looking pretty good. I'm on the other end of that site where I just found the cache blade, and I've got my camera with me this time. Looks like I got my little red heat treated side notch or something. Let's see. Yep, looks like it's maybe missing an ear. Yep, little ear's gone off of it. Still a cute little point. Look at all this chert that's washed out. No points or anything, and no tools that I can see, but you'd think there'd be something with this many flakes. Apparently this is blade day. Two minutes later, blade number 3. No, I know what you're thinking, but it ain't paleo. It's just a ding out of it. Okay, I'm sure this ain't what it looks like, but it just in case I want to get it on film, I'm sure it's nothing, but it sure looks like it could be a little kirk or something laying there. Jack's wreath, something like that. It's probably just a leaf or a flake. It's really well hidden. It's small, but I want to get it on film just in case. Oh, it's looking more like a point as I get down here close. Let's hope it's whole and see if it is one. What do you know about that? Been hunting 5 minutes. Let's clean it up. It's a dandy. Dandy little point. Little bitty kirk, I think. I'll have to look at it in better lighting. Great way to start. Not exactly the day I planned. Now we got the game warden coming to see what's going on. This fella flipped his boat. Alright, so I've been trying to hunt for about 2 hours now. I had to do kind of a water rescue. There's this fella that had a canoe with a sail on it. He had capsized. I guess a barge had almost hit him, and the guys saw him across the river and had called the conservation officer. Another barge was coming when I came up on him, and I was able to get a rope on his boat and make him get a life jacket on because he'd been treading water for about 45 minutes, and drug him across. And about the time I got 3/4 way across, the conservation officer showed up. Real nice guy, helped the guy out. The fellow lost his paddle. We looked for it, and the conservation officer gave him one of his. So anyway, not the way I planned my day, but I'm just glad the fella's safe. And I stopped at my place where I found my nice buck creek in my last video, and I've got something already. So I hope maybe I'm going to get something after getting a late start. So let's see. Wyandotte chert. Excellent, excellent little blade. Kind of a X-curvet blade. There's the base. Not sure what it is. Certainly not anything to do with a buck creek, but it's a good way to start the day. I'll take it. All right, I'm at a site that I never have found anything before, but I thought I'd stop here, and boy, I'm glad I did. I'm going to flip around here and let you enjoy this one with me. Pick it up. Oh man, that's sweet. I'm being strafed by a helicopter just in front. Okay, I found a couple things early on right away, and then I've walked for hours and hours and hours since then, and everything is just silted in so bad. Sites that usually are covered with flakes, you can't even find a flake. This is one such site. This thing's usually just littered with flakes, and I've only seen 2 or 3 flakes, but for whatever reason up here, I guess where the rain washed down, there is a beautiful pentagonal, beautiful Jack's Reef. Looks like out of fossiliferous chert. I'm gonna get on this side so my shadow's not on it. I can see that it's all there though. This would be an actual arrow point. Let me get back on the other side, pick it up, keep my shadow out of it. This is exciting. This is a dandy. Okay, I just found that pentagonal 10 minutes ago. I've got one laying here. It looks to be broken. I don't know what it is. It looks to be very well made. It also looks to be broken, but we'll see what I pull out. Oh, jeez. That is a fine blade. Paper thin, ovoid blade or ovate. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's not what I was expecting. I thought it was a point, some kind of stem point with a broken base the way it looked laying there. I'm going to clean this off and let you guys look at it. This is dandy. Here it is, washed off. I got so excited I forgot to film it after I cleaned it off. I've been walking around with it for 5 minutes, and then I just realized I said I was going to film it. Look at how thin that is. And look at the flaking on that side. Incredible. Same side as I just found the Jack's Reef. It's going to be the last side of the day. It's getting about a half-hour sunset, and I just got out on this site, and this little knife's laying right here. Some kind of banded material. It's not a banded Clovis or a yellow Leadbetter, but I'll take it. All right, I'm going to do a little cleanup video, and I'm also going to talk about a couple other things while I do it. I'm going to show you some of the pieces I found in this video. You probably noticed people from my region of the country have not been posting very many videos lately, and that's because the weather has just been terrible. All the river sites are buried under 2 feet of silt. The water's been up and down, mainly up, keeping the sites covered. The weather has been horrible. It's been in the 90s the entire month of July. Temperatures in the 90s with a heat index of over 100, and the days it wasn't like that, it was thunderstorming. So just not been very good conditions to hunt. Couple things that you saw in the video. I guess the first one was the where I was pulling the boat. I came down the river. I just started to hunt, and I saw something out in the middle of the water, and I thought, what is that? And as I got up close to it, I thought, what am I looking at? And I realized it was the hull of a boat turned upside down, and I also realized there's a man in the water. So I pulled in there, and about the time I got there and the wind was blowing me all around, I was trying to get to the guy. I felt bad for him. I think everything he owned was in that boat, and there was like a debris field of stuff just strewn all up and down the river. You know, all of his personal belongings were floating away. And about the time I got there, I looked, and around the bend came a big barge headed right for us. So we didn't have time to mess with his personal belongings. I hooked up his boat, and we started across the river. And it was scary for a little bit because his boat was actually taking on water. It was acting like a big scoop. I could barely pull it. But when I finally got it moving, he was able to flip. And I say boat, it was really just like a big canoe with a sail on it. He was able to kind of get it flipped up on plane, and we were able to drag it across there. But with that sail on it and everything, there was no way he could turn it right side up. And apparently he had been out in the water for about 45 minutes before I got there. Some people on the shore had seen him, but they didn't have a boat or any way to rescue him. So they had called the police. The police were down at the ramp, but they didn't have a boat. And they had called the DNR, and a conservation officer fortunately happened to be on the water that day, but he was about 20 miles away. So I got hooked to him, and it was a little scary as that barge came. Once we got moving, we were fine. And that's what you see in the video where that video clip is. If you look in the background, right at the start of it, you can see the barge in the background, and you can see a John boat roaring toward us. That was the conservation officer. The conservation officer was right on top of it. He got there just in the nick of time had I not been there to save the guy. And apparently another barge had gone by and just missed the guy by a few feet, just 10 or 15 minutes earlier, and that's why the guys called the police, because they saw him struggling out there, and he dang near got killed. Anyway, that's what that was all about, and it made me, I know I talk about water safety a lot, but it made me respect the river because, I couldn't even hardly see his capsized boat until I got real close to him. I couldn't see him at all, but even with a life jacket, if a barge runs over you, that life jacket's not going to protect you, and you might be a pretty good swimmer, but when you're out there with the wind blowing and the waves, it might be hard to swim out of the way. Even the barge only going 10 miles an hour, they're mighty big, and you may not be able to swim out of the way of it if you're fighting the wind and the current. And even if you can outswim a barge, you're not going to outswim a bass boat going 70 miles an hour. And a guy in a bass boat's not going to see you in the water until he's right on top of you. That guy lost his paddle, and the conservation officer and I looked for it for 25 minutes and could not find it. You'd think a 6-foot paddle would be easy to see out there on the river, but it just kind of disappeared, and it's hard to see a person. So just make sure you respect the river. If you're in a small craft, it's probably wise to kind of hug the bank in the big rivers, not because the waves are going to get you or the water's too rough, but if something does happen, it's really hard to see you, and a barge or another boat might run over you. So there's just, lots of things to think about. We just take it for granted when we go out there, but things can go south really quickly when you're on a large body of water like that. So that was that part. Then you saw the helicopter that was flying around, and they were actually spraying crops. They used to dust crops with airplanes, and they still do. Now they use helicopters a lot more. And then what's happened here in the last couple of years is they're using drones to spray crops. So, technology's changing, but that's what was going on there. Okay, so these are my hunts for the past month. I got a couple nice things, so I'll look at them carefully. So this point, I'm not sure the chert type, but it's either, and I honestly haven't even looked at it. It's thinner than what you would think. It's actually a pretty well-made point. The outline doesn't look that great, but when you look at the craftsmanship and feel how sharp this blade is, it's actually a heck of a point. This is either some kind of a middle woodland piece or it's a Kirk, and I honestly haven't looked at it that closely to tell. Sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between them. It's funny, a couple of guys and I make a joke. The IRS, Indigenous Relic Search, and River Red Artifacts, I know those guys, and every point that you're not sure what it is like this, everybody calls it a hopewell, and every triangular blade, everybody calls it cobs. Every side notch, everybody calls it big sandy, and every worked flake or scraper is paleo. It's just the way people tend to identify them on the internet, but that's not usually true. That's just kind of the go-to for everybody, but it's a lot more complex than that. Okay, here's a Jack's Reef notch pentagonal. This is actually an early arrow point. This is also, they call them intrusive mound points because the people from this time period dug into the mounds of the earlier peoples. So they intruded into the mound, so they're intrusive mound, but this would have been an actual arrow point. This one next to it, I believe, is Sonora chert, and it looks like a Jack's Reef, but when you look at the flaking closely, I'm pretty sure it's a Kirk, about 99% sure it's a Kirk, actually. Then just some kind of a knife or something out of some pretty banded material. This is a beautiful little blade made out of hornstone or Wyandotte chert. Then I have this blade, and I said it was hornstone or Wyandotte in the video, but it is actually Sonora chert. They're actually very similar, but you can see the different colors and stuff in there. This is Sonora. Not sure what it is. It is thinned and does have just a little bit of grinding right here on this corner. And like I said, if I was one of those people, I'd be calling it a paleo lancelet, but it's not paleo, I don't think at all. I think it's something woodland. And then this was the first one of these that I found way back in the early part of the video. This is a really nice blade out of hornstone or Wyandotte chert. It's got some good size to it, almost covers my whole palm. So conditions have been rough, but this is what I found basically in July and the beginning of August. So I got a few nice pieces. I only hunted about 3 times because the weather and the other conditions have been just so horrible. But I did get a few nice things, and you never know what you're going to see when you're out on the river. You might see a big cruise ship like I saw. You might see a helicopter. You might have to pull somebody out of the water. But whatever you're doing, enjoy yourself, but also respect it and be safe. And I hope you're all having a lot of luck, and hopefully soon I'll have another video to share with you. Take care.